The South shall rise again as the White Sox take a much-needed split against the Cleveland Guardians on the road, taking 2 out of maintaining their one-game lead in first place. On the north side, the Chicago Cubs dropped a big series to their division rival St. Louis Cardinals. Can they rebound with a big road series against the Baltimore Orioles? In football, we'll get you ready for your fantasy football draft with our top 10 tight ends you should be looking out for, according to SI. In World Cup soccer, the U.S. has a big matchup in Belgium tonight. We'll give you a big preview coming up. We'll have a special edition of Old School TV Monday, and we'll give you our women's and men's Wimbledon tennis update. That and a whole lot more is the Monday Extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. Start now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one here, drive in the left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! So Robert Jr., his 4th of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edman back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night from Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide, up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Bennington, no chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard. Wow.
Getting what a pass. Buzelis with the fade on the drive.
Uzi motions up. They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb Rose, middle of the field. Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears.
Welcome to another Monday Extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And after you like the video, if you can, please hype the video so you can get this content out to as many people as possible. We become your number one destination for all Chicago and national sports talk. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're not unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not to our extravaganza. We call a sports talk radio show. You got to hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to build and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE Live Entertainment Gang that's checking us out live in living color right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:21 p.m. Central Standard Time. But as always, much love to the replay gang that's checking us out on the replay, also at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
You'll be finding with some of the best on Second City Sports. We'll have a special edition for Old School TV Monday. You may remember the show, you may not remember it. We'll talk about that. It's a music theme here, so we'll talk about that. We'll have a Wimbledon update. The U.S. men in the World Cup will be are gearing up for their match later tonight against Belgium, and also your update for Wimbledon. We got our buddy Ron Luce from On Tap Sportsnet to talk Bears. Yep, he'll be back with us to talk Bears and Chicago baseball. We'll also talk a little bit of NBA as there were a few moves that kind of went down over the weekend as Summer League begins there as well. But sticking with the Chicago baseball theme, we'll talk some baseball. We'll start with the White Sox. They did eke out a split in Cleveland, let's be honest here, because they could have lost 3 out of 4, perhaps even gotten swept. But timely hitting, clutch pitching performances, and other stuff too. So they're right back where they started. And Sid, what do you think? Because, like I said, I kind of kept an eye on it. A couple games were on the U, but like I said, look, they persevered. They came back. They got the split after losing the first two. But again, I think I still have a lot of questions about this White Sox squad.
Yeah, one of those questions is their bullpen, and I know it's been an issue all season long. And hopefully, Chris Getz will be allowed by his owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, to address those issues come the trade deadline less than a month from now. But back to what happened at Cleveland over the weekend. Now, was I surprised with the result of the 2-2 split? No. But let's open up the hood of the car. How did the White Sox get to this point? You lost the first two games of this series in walk-off fashion. Cleveland played more play with more urgency than the Sox did. The Sox, in my opinion, gave away those first two games. Last Saturday, the Sox has a strong outing from Sean Burke with a career high of 11 Ks. Timely hitting came through for Chicago, including Costa Montgomery's go-ahead home run in the eighth inning, which sealed the deal there. And of course, yesterday's game, the Sox were ahead early, gave up the lead right back, came back and won on some timely clutch hitting. Despite some bad mental errors on defense yesterday, they find a way to win the ball game. LaKeena, as we said all the year long, this White Sox starting rotation actually has been good these last a few games or so. The bullpen has been the Achilles heel, but offensively, when the home runs are not there consistently, how are you going to win games in other ways? And the White Sox showed that last Saturday and yesterday. Even though they did have 2 home runs in the game total, they still found a way to win after blowing the lead twice. So this team's battled back from adversity all year long. To this date, still their longest losing streak is at 3 games. You got to give manager real Venable credit, but most importantly, you got to give the players in that clubhouse credit as well. They had to go out there and do the job, and so far they have done the job.
Consistency, I think that's been the problem with this team. If you want to say they have problems, I mean, sometimes the pitching. Look, Sean Burke probably had his best start of the season on Saturday. They could have lost that game. They did not. I mean, look, they could have won 3 out of 4, and that's, look, you can think of it that way. Baseball is like the little things that could kind of kill you. And look, I mean, that they played Boston. Boston has not been very good this year, so they should be able to take advantage against Boston. They did sweep the Angels all the way out west, but yeah, we'll talk about that after the break. But yeah, I feel like this White Sox squad, it's going to be fascinating to see what they do, if they do anything, because I can see Reinsdorf not doing anything. He probably could say, look, try to win it out with this squad. I don't think they can. They've got to make some moves if that's what their plan is. We'll have to wait and see. But I feel like this White Sox squad, like I said, I'm not gonna. You can raise your expectations, Sid, and that's fine. But I'm keeping my expectations kind of pleasant. This team, they're the only team that not have had a 4-game losing streak so far. You wonder if that's coming because they're a young squad. A lot of these guys are not very experienced, and they don't look at these last 6 games going into the break. I mean, look, they got Boston, they got Oakland. Oakland, they had their struggle. Well, the A's, I don't know about Oakland, but yeah, whatever. But the A's, as they finish up the first half, they struggled over the weekend, so should be able to finish strong in this first half. But like I said, these teams are not going to take the White Sox lightly. So after this break, they better be ready because Coach Montgomery said, look, the White Sox will give teams their best shot. Well, you know what? You better hit back when they hit you.
Yeah, and the White Sox have done that all year long. They're still going to have to continue to do that. Even though we maligned the White Sox bullpen, and rightfully so, for the majority of the season, I will give credit to these 2 bullpen guys. Sean Newcomb yesterday for pitching 2 innings to record the save, and then last Saturday, before Grant Taylor shut it down, he learned his lesson from blowing that first game on last Thursday. Brandon Iser, number 53, the other left-hander. Those 2 guys, even though the bullpen for the White Sox were taxed in this series, Brandon Iser, Sean Newcomb, especially yesterday when Newcomb got into a little bit of trouble but pitched his way out of it. Those 2 guys, Brandon Iser and Sean Newcomb, both were standouts in my opinion in this series from a tax bullpen for Chicago. But like you said, LaKeena, they're back home until next Sunday when the first half officially ends before the All-Star game. They should be able to take care of business against Boston. They should be able to take care of business against Oakland. They should have the minimal is 4 wins on this 6-game homestand. They should go 4-2, 5-1 in this homestand to wrap up the first half of the year. As we said all year long, they're a different team at home than they are on the road. let's see if that can prove itself once again as they finish up the first half of the schedule this week.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, City Brown with you. Going to switch gears here and talk some Cubs. On the other hand, though, for the Cubs, unfortunately, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Cardinals. They did get the win yesterday to avoid the sweep. I'm not talking about that game on Friday because, look, everybody has had those games this year at least once. So, yeah, that was just, we're going to rip that off and move on here. But on Saturday, unfortunately, it was a very strange game. On 4th of July, very strange weather. All the fireworks and the rain and caused a lot of fog. There were delays all over the place. There was flooding, near Wrigley. So it was just a very weird game. Shota, unfortunately, gave up 2 of those earned runs for the Cardinals as they won that game. Not a lot of bad support, unfortunately, for the Cubs. So they got back to those habits. Shota, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, how he does. He has one more start before the break, and I think the break is what he needs because his last couple of starts have not been very good. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this is one of those things. I know the Cardinals have had their number this year, and I get it. But like I said, this Cardinals squad, look, I don't know if this squad's for real or not. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, again, we'll look, once we get to August, if they make any moves, we'll see. But the Cubs really needed that win yesterday to avoid the sweep. They're back where they started, so it's not like they lost any ground with the Brewers. But I think they needed that win yesterday.
Yeah, as I said on our show last Wednesday, I said St. Louis, even though they were struggling, they were 4-6 in their last 10 games before this Cubs series. I said they're coming in with an edge over Chicago, beating them at home in St. Louis in late May, I believe that was the first time they met this year. This past weekend, they came in there with a whole lot of confidence. You mentioned about their Friday game. It happens, but last Saturday night's game, though, it was more telling. It was a little bit of both. It was more telling of the Cubs. The reason why they struggled at the end of May and at the end of May and early June, not taking advantage of runners in scoring position, especially with Dansby Swanson. I don't know if you saw it on last Saturday. He had a chance to perhaps tie the game with a 2-run home run. Then Wynn knocked it down, and the Cardinals got out of it. But St. Louis came in there with a whole lot of confidence. J.J. Weatherholt did his thing. Jordan Walker with a bounce back, as we talked about all year long, hit home run number 20. And the Cardinals bullpen came to light. As you mentioned yesterday, Alex Bregman, welcome back to the big leagues, buddy. You got 1 hit. Hopefully you can continue to stack a few more of those. Pico Armstrong, who was named to the All-Star team, we get more to the All-Star game following this timeout. But he went 2 for 4 yesterday. Seiya Suzuki, his bat's starting to go back cold, and I don't like it. He went 0 for 4 yesterday. Nico Horner went 1 for 3. Michael Busch, who needs to have a bounce back second half, he went 1 for 2 with a walk and a run scored. But LaKeena, it's all about the starting pitcher for Chicago. James Italiano should be back soon. Javier Assad did okay yesterday. He wasn't his greatest, but he did okay. The bullpen is quietly starting to gain a little bit of confidence, whether healthy bodies that Craig Counsell is throwing out there. So the Cubs, as you mentioned, they really didn't lose any ground against Milwaukee, but they needed that win, as you mentioned yesterday, more than St. Louis did, just to get back on track. As they head out on the road to finish out the first half of the schedule, they should be able to take care of a bad Baltimore team out on the East Coast.
Your pitching matchups, Matthew Boyd against Shane Baz. That's tomorrow. They're off today. Colin Ray against Dean Kremer for Baltimore. And to finish up the series, the rubber match, Daniel Peterson. Hopefully you'll get the good Daniel Peterson we saw in his debut with the Cubs, not the one we saw in the last outing against Trevor Rogers. So they should be able to get 2 out of 3 in this series against Baltimore. We'll have to wait and see. They also finish up against Cincy. Cincy, you don't know what team you're going to get there. So they're kind of similar. They're similar to St. Louis in a lot of ways. They got a better record. I'm talking about St. Louis does. So again, I'm kind of like, look, let me know in about a couple of weeks, after the break, and we'll see what happens. Now, forgot to say something about the White Sox. Just say that real quick. Their pitching matchup against the Red Sox tonight over at U.S. Cellular. Noah Schultz against Peyton Toll. That's
Tomorrow.
That's tomorrow as the series starts there. You got Davis Martin against Jake Bennett. And no word yet on who will start, but for the Red Sox, but it will be Anthony Kay in the rubber match of that series. So those are your series for the first few days of the week, as hopefully both teams take care of business against these sub 500 teams.
We'll dive into more baseball talk following this timeout. Did you watch Star Spangled Sunday from the networks of NBC and Peacock? Did you try to watch it through MLB.tv? And we'll get into the All-Star rosters, both from the NL and the AL, and who were the top All-Star snubs. I have a couple to get off my chest. I'm sure LaKeena does as well. As we continue our baseball talk following these messages, I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You listen to Sports Soul Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. So this is Monday Extravaganza edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live and living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
As we continue our baseball talk, Cubs, White Sox, MLB, All-Star rosters, and a whole lot more. For this half hour, if you have any questions and comments regarding the game of baseball, you can hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Going to all of baseball, and we'll start in the AL Central. Minnesota did beat the Yankees 2 out of 3. We'll talk about the Yankees and their free fall, well, semi free fall in a second here. Like I said, the Twins. Look, they're not going to do anything, in the trade deadline. I doubt it. But again, I know they're, Josh Bell, he homered twice in that series in one game on Friday. I know Buxton's been, was out that last game because of the hip after that victory on Friday, I should say, on Saturday, I should say. But the Twins, like I said, I don't know if they're for real or not. I doubt they're not going to trade anybody. They're not going to spend any money, but they're kind of hanging on by a thread. And look, I don't know if they're for real or not, but we know they got the players, and again, they're only 4.5 back.
Yeah, I've been saying this all year. Unless I'm missing something, I do not believe in this Minnesota Twins team. You mentioned Brian Buxton's having a nice bounce back year. Joe Ryan, who I expect to be traded by the August 3rd trade deadline, he pitched well for them yesterday. 7 innings strong, giving up 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk to 9 strikeouts. Joe Ryan is going to be a covered starting pitcher out on the market. Both Chicago teams should be checking up on him, in my opinion, more so of the Cubs. But also, too, Minnesota, you mentioned about Josh Bell. He could be another player that could have some value at the trade deadline as well. I know they have Victor Caratini, your guy, the former catcher for the Chicago Cubs. Royce Lewis, a young star who had 2 RBIs yesterday. He's been up and down all year because of various injuries and whatnot. But Minnesota's, they're riding a hot streak right now. Are you going to sit there and tell me they're going to overtake Chicago and Cleveland from the AL Central? Technically, it's possible. Realistically, I don't think so.
We'll have to wait to see. Like I said, these next few weeks, they're going to be pretty crucial now. Detroit, after sweeping the Yankees, they did win 2 out of 3 in Arlington against Texas. So they went 5-1 in their road trip. Now, like I said, it's 7.5 back. I mean, it's not impossible. It's going to be, a big stretch here. But like I said, Riley Green, he had home run and triples to wrap up that series for the Tigers. He's been really solid for the Tigers. I mean, like I said, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see the Tigers if, like I said, I know we know Tariq School's going to be very coveted, but remember, folks need to remember that School's got a no trade clause. So he can say, look, if the Tigers do decide to trade him, they give him a trade scenario, and he said, no, I want to stay here. I think we can come back. I think folks need to prepare for that. So, the Tigers are going to be an interesting team to watch these next couple of weeks after the All-Star break as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline.
And let's not forget Casey Mize, their starter yesterday. I believe he's a free agent at the end of the year as well. He pitched 6 2/3 innings, gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 strikeouts to 2 walks. He's been another workhorse in that starting rotation for the last couple of years, so he could be covered at the trade deadline as well. But most importantly, the Detroit Tigers offense woke up. Is it a little bit too late? I know they're technically 10 games under 500, but you still have Kevin McGonigal, the third baseman. He went 2 for 4 yesterday. He's one of the leading candidates for AL Rookie of the Year. Dirk Dingler, the catcher, he played DH yesterday, but he's starting to get it going. You mentioned about Riley Green. He had his bat started to wake up on this road trip. He had a 4 RBI day yesterday. So it's more so about this Tigers offense carrying this team. They're trying to get back in the race. I think it's going to be a little bit too late, mostly because of the injuries. And their bullpen has been terrible outside of Kenley Jansen. So Kenley Jansen could be traded too at the trade deadline, by the way. So we'll see what happens with him. So Detroit, they made this run from obscurity a couple years ago. They made the playoffs. They blew the division lead last year, but barely made it to the playoffs via the wild card. You saw what happened in both scenarios. They didn't have anything left once they got into postseason. So can they come back this year? Technically, they can't, but I don't think so because they dug themselves too big of a hole to start the year.
Well, that's what Cleveland did last year. So, and look what happened. So, I'm not going to write off Detroit just yet. We've seen where things happen in baseball. So, like I said, it's going to after this week's games and also after the All-Star break. Like I said, you still got about 3 weeks before the trade deadline. So, a lot could happen between now and then. Now, going to the East, the Yankees, they lost. We mentioned it earlier. They lost 2 out of 3 to Minnesota after getting swept by the Tigers. They need to get some guys back. I know Chaz Chisholm's out with that turf toe injury. So unfortunately, that's been injuries have been an issue for them and such. So I think Yankees fans should be a little concerned.
Yeah, and also too, they're starting pitching in their bullpen too. Let's just say they have been taxed as well. So, and when your offense doesn't come through, and when you have one of the best players of the game out for a while, like you have in Aaron Judge, it's definitely going to cause some problems. So, the All Star break cannot come at a bad time for this New York team. So, hopefully, they can get Aaron Judge back at some point in the second half, and they can get, like you said, Trent Grisham, get him back in center field. This team will take off. And if you can get anything out of John Carlos Stanton this year, that'll definitely be a plus. So Yankees just need to get some healthy bodies back, and their starting pitching needs to get back on track. I.e. Garrett Cole, i.e. Carlos Rodon, i.e. Cam Schlittler, who's been having a rough go at his last couple starts. So the break cannot come back at a better time for New York.
Now, as for Tampa, they lost 2 out of 3 to Houston. We'll talk about Houston in a second here, but yeah, I think Tampa's going to be interesting. They're four up on the Yankees. Like I said, we'll have to wait and see if they can keep it up. Junior Caminero, who of course won AL Player of the Month honors. He was big in that being that lone win for the Rays in that series. But again, we'll have to wait and see if they can get it. They can keep them and try to hold the Yankees off for a little bit till they get guys to come back. Now going out west, starting with Seattle, they won 2 out of 3, against the Blue Jays. I know Julio Rodriguez got hurt, so he might miss this last week of the first half, but because of concussion, he suffered in that first game of that series. So it's going to be interesting, though. I'm sure they're going to probably send him out through the break. So yeah, he's going to be gone for that first week. But Logan Gilbert, only gave up 1 hit on Saturday and over 7 in the third innings, and just a really solid showing. Emerson Hancock. He had a solid outing as well yesterday for the Mariners. So again, taking care of business against a team they should be able to beat.
Yeah, and it's also a rematch from last year's ALCS 7-game Classic series as well. So Seattle, as we talked about, their offense has been Jekyll and Hyde, hit and miss all year, consistently inconsistent. But after being shut out, last Friday in that series opener, they gave the Toronto Blue Jays the double goose egg by shutting them out in back-to-back games, scoring 11 runs on last Saturday and scoring 4 runs yesterday. So the Mariners, the problem is they can't seem to keep the hot streak going on a consistent basis as far as the offense is concerned. We talk about the starting pitching. They have a very good, underrated bullpen. It's just the offense needs to help them out for a consistent stretch. If they can do that, they can overtake this division. But as we said before, I said it 1,000 times, I'll say it 1,000 more. A team that could get a good hot stretch going for 2 or 3 weeks will end up winning this AL West.
Yeah, no, as far as we talked about Texas earlier. Like I said, they were up a game and a half on the Mariners last week. I said, look, Texas, I'm not sure I believe in Texas, and they've proven me right during that week. Now, as far as Houston, like I said, I feel the same way about Houston. They've had some injuries. I know Yordan Alvarez had another walk-off on Friday on the 4th of July. He's actually the only player in MLB history with multiple walk-off home runs on Independence Day. He also did in 2022. Up until then, Astros have won 9 straight games on July 4th. That's the longest streak by any MLB team on Independence Day. Going back to the White Sox, won 14 row back in the 30s and 40s. So that's a nice little record there. I mean, like I said, I think no one's running away from the AL West division just yet. So we'll see what happens this week. But yeah, who knows what will happen in that division? I think there's still a lot to be decided on that one. Now going to the National League real quick. The Dodgers, they beat the Padres 3 out of 4. They're up 14. That's more. They could have just walked through this series. I think no one would have mind. But Yoshimoto Yamamoto struck out 10 on Saturday. I think it's just that they've had their injuries as well. The Dodgers have, but they've been able to. You still got Ohtani. I know they're being very careful with him because I think he injured his biceps in the 3rd game of that series. So they might send him out this week. Who knows? But yeah, you guys like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez. He had a grand slam that first game, that second game, I should say. So the Dodgers have kind of like been able to do their thing and being very cautious also at the same time.
Yeah, congrats to San Diego for winning last night to avoid the 4-game sweep, but it was more about San Diego choking. As you mentioned, that first game, they gave up a 3-0 lead. They gave up a 6-0 lead also in that series, and they lost both those games. Whatever confidence that the San Diego Padres had, it was shot in those first 2 games of that series. You mentioned you should trademark this. The Dodgers are dodgering. The Dodgers, like you said, could have sleptwalked through that series. It ended up still would have won this series. In my opinion, it was more about San Diego choking than the Dodgers winning that series. So, as you mentioned, the Dodgers, as we said for the last couple of years, is not about having the most wins in regular season history. It's about getting certain healthy veteran guys back in time for the playoffs. They have depth. They have the veteran leadership. Dave Roberts is arguably the best manager in the game right now. So, San Diego will they be able to turn around in time for the trade deadline? I don't know, but I just got a big question mark with that team. It was all about the Padres, in my opinion, of blowing a couple games in that series, and then so the Dodgers winning it.
Going into let's go to the Central first. We talked about the Cardinals. We talked about of course the Cubs. Though the Brewers, they won 2 out of 3 in just outside Phoenix, against the D-bats. I'm kind of like in a sort of, it's going to be interesting to see, will the Brewers, I don't think the Brewers will make they may make a minor move. I know Churio, broke that tie in the first game of that series against the Diamondbacks. And, like I said, I don't know how Milwaukee's been able to do it, but again, I don't know if they can hang on, but we'll have to wait and see. Look, I think for the Cubs, you just got to worry about what you're doing. We've been saying it for forever, for like almost a month, but they're going to do their thing. Just the Cubs got to do their thing, and it'll be interesting to see if the Brewers can, not hang on to this lead.
Yeah, the Brewers, that's what you're supposed to do. Take care of business against a sub-500 team. They did that, taking 2 out of 3, as you mentioned, against Arizona. You mentioned about Jackson Churios. They signed him to a contract extension a couple years ago. I know he was injured to start the year, but he's starting to come through. Bryce Terang you have over there, he's starting to come through. Andrew Vaughn, he went 1 for 3 yesterday. He's still trying to find his way. Remember, they acquired him last year from the White Sox. Of course, you got a veteran, Christian Yelich. It seems like he always comes through with a big hit at the right time. You got Sal Frelick as well, your stud right fielder. So, as I said before, now 1,000 seems like 2,000 times. I'll say it again. The Milwaukee Brewers, in my opinion, they're the National League version of the Tampa Bay Rays. They don't hit for a lot of power, but they hit for average, and they have clutch hits, and they have just enough starting pitching and bullpen to win ball games. And as I said, Dave Roberts arguably could be the best manager in baseball. You got to put Pat Murphy of the Milwaukee Brewers in that 1A class as well.
Mm-hmm. So like I said, I think it's going to be a very interesting team to watch, see if they do anything during the trade deadline. Now, Pittsburgh, they could be right up there for a wild card spot. That's what they won 2 out of 3 in DC against the Nationals. So we'll see if they can if they make any moves. They probably have to make a run at one of those wild card spots. Now going into the National League East. Tough, showing for both. I mean, they did, the Braves did win 2 out of 3 against the Mets. They definitely needed that, as they had lost the last 4 series that they played. Philadelphia, I think they are making up that game against Kansas City. I know that it rained. It rained a lot in the Midwest, if you guys remember those first couple of days. So they split the first 2. They're actually going to be playing in about 20 minutes in the rubber match of that series to squeeze that in. So we'll see if they can. I know Kansas City is interesting, but like I said, Philadelphia, they're still 3 back. They may have dig themselves too big of a hole early on, but I mean, it'll be interesting to know. Like I said, I've got some snubs in the All-Star game. Well, we'll get to that in a minute here. But yeah, Philadelphia, like I said, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if they can take care of business against the Royals and win that series.
Yeah, Aaron Nola did not look good yesterday for Philadelphia. I know the Phillies fell behind early. The offense did make a charge late, but the Kansas City Royals held them off for that win. Here's the thing I'll say about Philadelphia. As I said before, and I'll say it again, the longer that Ronald Acuna Jr. is out for Atlanta, the Philadelphia has a realistic chance to overtake them. But if both teams are healthy, I still take the Braves to win this NL East division. Philadelphia, we talked about the starting pitching: Christopher Sanchez, Zach Wheeler, and then he has Jesus Luzardo, who I forgot to mention last week. But those are the top front guys in that starting rotation. Their bullpen is very good too. Johan Duran is that closer. White Sox fans, you remember him from a couple years ago. He's with the Twins. So, and Don Manley has these guys motivating, playing well, playing up to their potential. So Philadelphia is going to be there for a playoff spot. They could get there by winning the division. We'll see about that. But as long as Philadelphia can continue to play like this, they'll definitely have a lock on their first wild card spot in the National League.
Yep, they definitely will. Now, as far as the Marlins, they're only 4.5 back. Like I said, I don't know if they're for real or not. I mean, like I know Yuri Perez had a perfect game, through 7. They pulled him. The Marlins had to hang on against the A's, 9-8. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know. Alcantara looked okay. I don't know if they'll be in the thick of it. I don't know how for real they are, but. Look, the Marlins are right there. So, like I said, I'm sure we'll see some of those guys on the move, before the trade deadline in about a month. So we'll have to wait and see what happens these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, Otto Lopez is playing very well. He went 3 for 4 yesterday with 3 RBI. Xavier Everest has been playing well throughout the month of June. It's carried over to the month of July. And let's not forget about Kevin Stowers and Owen Casey, the former Cub prospect from last year. Both those guys have been contributing as well with their bats. So, as you mentioned, they're getting timely hitting with their offense, and also too, their starting pitching has been very good. So, I think they're taking advantage of their schedule that you're supposed to do. Will they be in it for the long haul? It's definitely going. Excuse me. It's definitely going to be tough. I don't see them win the NL East. That's not going to happen. But could they be in it for those one of those 3 wild card spots? Yes, but that field in the National League is getting very crowded, so they got to find a way to keep themselves in the race.
Yeah, just to see if they can do that. Right before we do the schedule, the All-Star rosters were announced over the weekend, and if you guys missed it, that's okay. I know it kind of came out on Saturday in the afternoon, so I know some folks were probably kind of missing because they were busy doing fireworks and such. But both the Cubs, PCA Crew Armstrong, this is his second All-Star appearance. Also, Miguel Vargas for the White Sox. This is his first. I know he's been around for a few years, but yeah, this is actually his first All-Star. This will be his first All-Star appearance. He's actually going to be one of 26 first-timers, so you're going to be seeing a lot of new faces in the All-Star game in the Midsummer Classic on July 14th. But let's go. I'll go through the rosters quickly. These are starters starting in the American League. One of those first timers, Shea Longyears. We've talked about him for the A's. Vlad Jr. This is number 6 for him. Ernie Clement, also his World Juniors teammate with the Blue Jays. His first. We talked about Junior Caminero for the Rays. This is second. Bobby Witt Jr. The Royals, the team has not been very good this year, but the Witches have been pretty solid. This is his third appearance. Number 12 for Mike Trout, Byron Buxton, his third. Aaron Judge, his 8th, and also Yordan Alvarez, number 4. Like I said, Vargas was named as one of the reserves. We'll talk about the reserves in a second. But yeah, going to the National League. Drake Baldwin, another first-timer. Freddie Freeman for the Dodgers, number 10. Drake Baldwin for the Braves, I should say. Ozzie Albies, also from the Braves, his 4th. Max Muncy, his 3rd. TJ Abrams, his 2nd from the Nationals. Brandon Marsh, another first-timer from the Phillies. Juan Soto from the Mets, number 5. Andy Pages, that from the Dodgers, his first one. And, of course, DHing. He made it as a DH, but this is number 6 for Shohei.
Yeah, I'm proud of Andy Paez. I talked about him a month ago when when the Dodgers played the White Sox here in Chicago. I said he was having a nice year, and he's been doing it from the start. He's been doing it with his glove in the outfield, and his offensive numbers are starting to show with his bat. I voted for him for the All-Star game because he got the nod. So I have too much problem with the National League, but the American League, you may see a couple players not play. In particular, Mike Trout. I know he's currently on the IL, so he may not play in the All-Star game too. Let's not forget, the MLB has this stupid rule has been in forever. Each team must have an All-Star representative. Do you really think the Colorado Rockies deserve a representative for the All-Star game? No. Does the San Francisco Giants need an All-Star representative? No.
Well, like I said, we go through this every year. Of course, yeah, that's a silly rule. I think they're the only league to have that such rule where every team's got to be represented. I guess they want all the teams from the cities to have representation. All right, but the team's kind of silly, but whatever. The pitchers real quick. Of course, we'll just do some of the ones, the Mono ones. Dylan Cease, of course, his first. Of course, he's with Toronto now. Aroldis Chapman. His ninth with Boston. A lot of first timers. Kate Smith from Cleveland, his first. Cam Schlitter, from the Yankees, his first. Joe Ryan, his second. Luce from Toronto, his first. Going to the National League, Christopher Sanchez, his second from Philadelphia. Chris Sale, congrats to him over the weekend. 5 strikeouts. He's actually the first pitcher to have 500 strikeouts with three different teams. So congrats to him, and also makes his 10th All-Star appearance. Jacob Mizorowski, his second. Mason Miller from San Diego, his second. Max Mayer, his first. Another first timer from Miami. Reser Iglesias, Atlanta, his first. One person that's not there, Zach Wheeler. I mean, I know he was out for the first month and a half or so, recovered from medical issues, but even still, he's been, for the most part, pretty consistent. So, like I said, I think out of maybe he might have probably the one guy that you could probably say was slugged, but I don't know.
Yeah, I know we'll get into this more with our guest, Ron Luce from On Tap Sportsnet, coming up to kick off hour number 2. We'll definitely ask about Davis Martin, who I thought got snubbed. I know as I said, the 2 out of his last 3 starts that Davis Martin didn't look good, but he still posted a 93 record. His ERA is barely over 3, and he gets the snub. So, like I said, maybe some of these players will not participate in the next few days. So that if Davis Martin gets in, obviously he'll get in. That way, for the players start dropping out via injuries, or they're just not interested in playing. So we'll see what happens if Davis Martin still could get the call. But right now, he's an all-star snub. And so, like I said, we'll get into that next hour with Ron Luce on Tap Sportsnet. Here's your schedule for this week at MLB. LaKeena mentioned it a few moments ago. Philadelphia, Kansas City will wrap up this series later on today. The New York Yankees will take on the Tampa Bay Rays in a big series for both teams. The Houston Trastros, as Sean Sierra will call them, they'll take on the Washington Nationals in our nation's capital. The New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves will wrap up their 4-game series tonight from a hot Atlanta. The Milwaukee Brewers will travel to St. Louis on their road trip to take on the Cardinals. The Arizona Diamondbacks will play the San Diego Padres out west, and that game will be on FS1, the first game tonight at 8:30. Toronto will continue their West Coast road trip. They'll go down to the Bay to take on the San Francisco Giants, and the Colorado Rockies will take on the Los Angeles Dodgers in La La Land.
Your schedule for Tuesday, so in this series that will be starting tomorrow. Of course, we talked about the Cubs in Baltimore, the A's and Detroit. Then you have Atlanta. They start their series against Pittsburgh. And, of course, the Yankees-Tampa Bay series, that second game will be on TBS. That's their Tuesday game of the week. Seattle against Miami. That should be an intriguing matchup there. Kansas City and the Mets. Philadelphia and Cincy, they start their series. Of course, Boston and the White Sox, the battle of the Sox, they start their series tomorrow. Cleveland and Minnesota, that should be an interesting series there as well. The Angels and Texas. I got to make sure I'm doing all this right. Toronto and, that's all of them. And, of course, Prime Video will have the last of the Yankees and Tampa Bay. And, of course, your ESPN game will be Philadelphia and Cincy, as well as Arizona and San Diego. And on Thursday, real quick, if this thing could cooperate with me, let's see, any series that's starting. Nope, I think everybody else is going to be finishing up their series. So that is scheduled for your early part of schedule for this weekend MLB.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports the Monday extravaganza continues with Ron Luce for On Tap Sportsnet. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Chi. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everybody in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Extravaganza this year, lot to load, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
As we kick off hour number 2, talking Chicago baseball, and we'll get into some Bears football as well with our very special guest friend of the show coming up. If you have any questions or comments regarding those subjects during this interview, you can hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
He is the founder of On Tap Sportsnet podcast, where you can get on social media, on YouTube, and also wherever you get your podcasts. He knows a little bit of everything about Chicago sports. He's the one, the only, the super cool Mr. Ron Luce. Ron Luce, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. No problem. We had so much fun with you the last time you were on with us. Well, let's start in season, because I know we got a lot of Bears questions coming up with training camp starting later this month. But let's go to like in season or talk some. We'll start with the White Sox. Are you surprised that the White Sox are where they are right now?
I think it's easy to say that everybody's probably surprised in Chicago. I mean, I talk to a number of White Sox fans on a pretty daily basis. A large majority of my friends are all White Sox fans. And honestly, like, I've had conversations with them, and in my humble opinion, like, this is the best time to watch your favorite team when they're good, when there's no expectation. You know, it's just, you're playing with house money. They lose a game, all right. They win a game, that's awesome. And being ahead of schedule, I think it just shows that, you know, despite some of the hemming and hawing, I think that has occurred over the last few years when it came to Chris Getz, and just, oh, here we go again. You know, they're promoting from within again, and it's one of Jerry's boys, and it's, you know, kind of the endless vicious cycle. I don't think that's the case. I think Getz has shown that they're able to develop talent, and they're going through kind of the same issue I think a lot of teams are right now, which is pitching is hard to find, and there's very few good ones. And if you have a good one, there's a chance they're going to get hurt. But the bats are doing what the bats are doing. I mean, they're the only team in baseball that has, 3 players with 20 or more home runs at this point in the season. I mean, that's pretty high praise for a young and up and coming White Sox team. So, you know, despite the quote unquote surprise aspect of it, you know, they're getting the production out of the young players that they expected to get the production out of when either they were acquired or when they were drafted over the course of, I guess we'll call it the rebuild that has occurred right now on the south side of Chicago.
We'll get to Costa Montgomery, Murakami, and Miguel Vargas, the lone all-star representative, in just a moment. But me and LaKeena have been preaching this on our show since the start of the season, since the Sox have been winning. It's been the unsung heroes like your Sam Antonacci's, your Chase Maestros, to a lesser extent, Brady Montgomery, who's been up here for a month now. Jacob Gonzalez, who's replacing Murakami on the roster, who was brought up. He had a couple of big hits during this last stretch in the last month or so. Talk to us about those unsung heroes. Let's not forget about Tristan Peters as well. He had a big home run yesterday to kind of break it open for Chicago.
Yeah, I think Peters has been truthfully the most unsung hero. I just think the level of defense that he brings in center field really is a largely unknown name kind of coming into this season. And then being able to bring the bat and what he's done has been super impressive. I mean, Mydroth, you know, back when those deals occurred and they were able to pick up Mydroth, I think a lot of people knew that the hit tool was there, and it was just a matter of if he could kind of put it all together and become an everyday big leaguer. And I think he's done a great job at that. A little bit of ability to move around the infield is always great too. It gives them a ton of options on that infield, whether it's Montgomery kicking over to the hot corner if Vargas isn't playing there one day, or, you know, Mydroth playing at shortstop, and you know, they're able to rotate other guys in. But probably the most unsung hero, at least in my opinion, he's one of my favorite players on the team, because he's been helping out the fantasy team a little bit too, is our boy Sam Antonacci. I mean, he's playing everywhere. He's leading off. He's got that kind of bulldog mentality about him. I think back to that post game. I think it was last week, maybe, when he got the game winning hit, and he's just like, "Hey, this is just getting the job done. You know, coming through when your team needs you most." And you need those kind of players. I mean, you know, it's nice to have the sexy names like you mentioned, right? The Vargases, the Montgomerys, the Murakamis of the world that can carry you and win ball games for you. But those unsung heroes are always going to be probably the most important pieces of your team, because they're the guys that are producing at a level higher than what people expected. So I think those are just a few of the names, but Antonacci is certainly one of them to me. I think Tristan Peters as well. I think he's been a really pleasant surprise so far out in center field for the White Sox.
Yeah, he really has. Now, what about Davis Martin? I think I agree. I think he got snubbed. I think he might still get into the All-Star game, I feel. But what do you think his chances are for being up there with AL Cy Young discussion?
Unfortunately, I think all of his kind of what I'll call sexy numbers are probably not Cy Young worthy, unfortunately. There's a lot of really good pitchers in the AL, and it's a tough group to kind of weasel your way in with. But I think if you're the White Sox, you're super pleased with what Davis Martin has become. I mean, 17 starts already this season, just a hair north of a 3 ERA right now. Again, the sexy numbers aren't there, right? 96 in a third innings pitched. I think it's 90 Ks right now. So he's a little bit below a K an inning. The wild pitch number, I think, is the highest in baseball right now. I think he's got 6 of them, which is neither here nor there. But, I think he's just a perfect example, though, of, because the Cubs are seeing this issue too, right? Where pitchers can't stay healthy. And it's kind of an epidemic in baseball right now where elite players are struggling and getting hurt and missing huge amounts of time. And, it's showing that you need 5 and 6 and 7, maybe even 8 and 9 guys that can start for you at any given moment in the season. I think Davis Martin turning into what Davis Martin has become is great, because I remember the conversations just a few years ago where people were saying if he becomes a 5 in this rotation for the long term, that's a huge success. And he's arguably the quote unquote ace right now, because a lot of these young pitchers that the White Sox have are either just not ready or are simply banged up. And you need those type of players.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I want you to finish up your point and finish up your point.
Oh, no, I think, I think what David Martin has done so far, I certainly think he'll be in consideration if there's some of those fall offs for the All-Star game that are inevitable to happen every single year. So he might be added as a replacement, but even if he's not, I think, there's still plenty of kudos to give to a guy who's made 17 starts already to this point in the season, just north of a 3 ERA, and has largely been the workhorse for a surprise White Sox team in 2026.
Yeah, let's not forget to behind Davis Martin, Sean Burke, who struggled to start the year. He had a career high in 11 Ks in the start last Saturday against the Guardians. I know he didn't qualify for the win because the Sox office decided to wake up late, but he's been pitching well over the last 3 or 4 starts. Anthony K had a nice start last Friday as well. So hopefully this White Sox starting rotation can carry this momentum to finish up the first half of the year. You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you, talking Chicago baseball with our guy Ron Luce from On Tap Sportsnet. Last moment or two regarding the White Sox before we switch over to talk about the Northsiders, Ron. I want to ask you about Will Venable. Of course, Chris Getz, when he took the job 3 years ago, officially next month, the 3-year anniversary of that, he said to the media, I do not like my team. I know many fans assumed that he didn't like the team because they weren't winning. Well, it went deeper than that, because the culture of the players from the last regime, they did not mix well together in that clubhouse. So, of course, we know the mishaps with Pedro Grifol. He was the manager that was part of that worst team of all time. Of course, now enter Will Venable in the picture, enter the young players that are playing hard for him. Talk to us about the impact that Will Venable has had, not only in the dugout, but in the clubhouse as well.
Yeah, I think Will Venable is a perfect example of a former player that maybe wasn't a superstar. Those guys tend to become, in my opinion, the best managers, especially when they're highly regarded around the game of baseball for just the person that they are as well. I mean, I've had personal experience of getting to see Will Venable a little bit because he was on the coaching staff for the Cubs for a handful of seasons. He's certainly a coach that I was familiar with up on the north side of Chicago. Still remember him as a player in the later years of his career with the Padres. And you kind of saw it. You heard, comments throughout the course of the season about how he and the players would get along so well. And he's a player's guy because he was a player. He understands the grind. He knows what it's like to be going through the 162 and, needing a day off or just needing somebody to pick you up a little bit. And kind of also understanding how veterans and young guys mix well within a room. And, I know there's a lot of Sox fans, again, a number that I spoke to personally, that were kind of underwhelmed, I think, by the Venable hiring. But I think that was, at the time, I thought it was the right hire. I thought it was a great hire. It wasn't somehow, we're going to go get this guy, or, oh, we're going to go get that guy, or, oh, we're going to go get some sexy name just because it's what the market thinks the White Sox should do. I give Chris Getz a lot of credit for sticking to his guns and ultimately picking the guy that he wanted. And for what Venable has done so far, you're seeing it on the field. I mean, there's, you can have all the talent in the world. I mean, I think White Sox fans can agree that 2021 team was expected to be, a contender for years, and really was just a one-year flash in the pan because they didn't mesh well correctly in terms of culture, and players fell off and never really reached their full potential. And it really seems like Venable's able to get the full potential out of a lot of these guys, given what we've just sat here talking about, right? Some of the unheralded, unsung heroes of this team, they're being put in positions to win. And that's as a manager, that's the best thing you can do, is putting your guys in the best position to win ball games. And I think Venables has done a brilliant job at that so far.
Yeah, he really has. Now let's switch gears and go to the north side and talk Cubs. The fact that they've been able to, they got the record that they have, and with the pitching and all the injury issues and whatnot, how do you think the Cubs have been able to do this?
I will start off by saying the number of injuries and just how this season has gone for the Cubs, I have one word to describe it, and it's dumb, because it just doesn't make sense. They have an entire pitching staff, not even just a starting pitching staff, an entire pitching staff of like 13 players sitting on the IL right now that are all big league capable players. Most of them are done for the year, or at least a handful of them are. They have just awful production from players like Alex Bregman, who you paid a ton of money to. You've had some guys come back down to earth a little bit after maybe some hot starts. I think Nico Horner's a great example of that. And yet somehow, some way, this team has won 50 games. It really doesn't make sense. It's just kind of crazy. But I think it's a testament, though, to some of the things that Jed Hoyer has done. And, Jed Hoyer gets a lot of flack from Cubs fans, genuinely. I see it every day, every year at CubsCon. People with the hard-hitting questions when they would let him and Carter Hawkins sit up there and talk. And, he always expressed having depth and you need 8 to 9 guys that can pitch for you in any given season as starters. And everybody's like, why? Like, no, go get the big guys and pay them a bunch of money and then just figure it out. And now you're seeing why. Justin Steele's down, Cade Horton's down. Those are probably considered your 2 top pitchers coming into the season, and neither one of them has really thrown for you this year. Cade Horton made 2 starts before he got hurt. So I think it's a testament to, they've been the streakiest team in baseball as well. A 20-3 stretch, followed by a 7-22 stretch, followed by whatever they're on right now. I think it's like 19-7 or something like that in their last, 20-something games. They've been incredibly streaky, but PCA has played incredible, and he's been consistent for the first time in his career. Now, hopefully that continues into the second half, because Cubs fans remember the fall off from a season ago where MVP talks were the first half of the season story, and then he really, really regressed a little bit as the league figured out how to pitch to him. But Seiya Suzuki has been a huge player for this Cubs team and been getting the job done. And perhaps the most hysterical story of the recent stretch is Dansby Swanson and his insane production that he has put up. And that's important. I mean, they're getting it from guys whenever they need it at different points in the lineup. I mean, Dansby Swanson, for example, has been their 9-hitter. And somehow it's their 9 and their 1-hitter that have been largely carrying them over the last 2.5 weeks and helping them win ball games. So I think it's just it's depth. It's a good culture. I think that team is built on culture, given the names and who's in that room. And I think the Cubs have always valued that, especially when you look at the top contracts given out in team history. They're all high character, what I call baseball sickos, who live and breathe the game, good clubhouse guys, do right by the community. There's no character concerns with those guys. And that's what the Cubs have always liked and always want. And that's what they want in that room. And you can see why, because when things don't go your way, because frankly, the Cubs had every reason to probably have a reciprocal of that record, if not even worse, given everything, all the adversity that has occurred in that clubhouse. And yet somehow, some way, again, they managed to win 50 games before the All-Star break, and they still have 6 games to go here where they can improve on that mark. So I would love to sit here and be like, I have the answers for you. I don't have the answers. I think it's if you have a good foundation as a ball club and you have some things go your way, even despite adversity, can make it work. And that's just kind of how the Cubs are flying by the seam of their pants right now over the course of this first half of the season.
Yeah, those 2 10+ game winning streaks are keeping the Cubs afloat right now. I don't think this ever happened in MLB history. A team that has 2 10+ game winning streaks followed by a 10+ game losing streak has ever made the playoffs. The Cubs, if that's the case, I think the Cubs will be the first team to make the playoffs with that such statistic. We'll see what happens with that. I want to ask you about the All-Star roster as far as the Cubs concerned. Like you said, PCA with the great month of June earned the All-Star spot, but many people talked about for the last 24, 48 hours, Ben Brown, who in my opinion was the Cubs MVP in that rotation to the first half of the year. Some people brought up Carson Kelly, who as of this live broadcast, his batting averages at 282. Can you even make a case for one of those guys, or maybe somebody else to be an additional representative for the Cubs at the All-Star game, or is just PCA was just the obvious choice?
Well, I know you guys were talking about this a little bit before all three of us got on here and started chatting about, every team needs a representative, and that dilutes the rosters a little bit. And it's an unfortunate nature of the beast of the All-Star game, and why I think a lot of people really don't take the same weight in the All-Star game that they probably used to, right? It's kind of in some aspects, it's a popularity contest. I think a great example that is PCA not being a starter when he's literally by WAR the second best player in baseball, and the only guy that's better than him is marginally better because he hits and pitches. It's a popularity contest, so it's hard to sit back and really take a lot of weight in it. I think from the standpoint of the Cubs, I really don't think anybody else deserves the All-Star game. Ben Brown is the only one I can make a case for. And I think Ben Brown would be in the All-Star game if he was a starter the whole year. I think coming out of the bullpen, he wasn't really the sexy closer. He didn't have a sexy title in the bullpen, right? Like a Roldis Chapman or somebody like that, where you are the closer, you're the guy. They played the big, crazy display in the ballpark when you come into the game. When you're not that guy coming out of the bullpen, and then you go into a starting rotation and you are very good, but then you get hurt, I think that's what wore down on Ben Brown. I think he, statistically speaking, has absolutely, Sid, I think you nailed it. He has been the MVP of this Cubs team. He's been the only pitcher that's been worth a damn the whole year and has consistently showed up no matter what role they've put him in. So to me, he's the only one I really would make a case for. Everybody else on that infield has not either put up the numbers or been consistent enough. I think Carson Kelly is hard because, yes, he's a catcher, but he doesn't play every day. I mean, he's splitting time with Miguel Amaya. There was, a little bit of time there before Ballesteros went back to Iowa, where he was getting some catching time as well. So it's hard when Carson Kelly's only out there for, we'll call it 70 maybe % of the games, or even 65% of the games, when guys like Drake Baldwin are playing almost every day and are just unbelievable. So I really do think PCA was the one logical choice. And quite frankly, I'm good with that, because I think after the adversity this Cubs team has had so far this year, those guys getting away for 4 days and just sticking their butt in the sand on a beach somewhere is probably the best thing for them at this point. But I think it's just PCA personally. And really quick note, you mentioned with the 2 win streaks of 10 and then the losing streak of 10, I believe there was one other team, and it was the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they won the World Series the year they did that. So not to say that the Cubs are going to do that, because I don't have that much faith in any just coincidences of numbers, but I think it's a fun and fascinating stat, to say the least, that it just shows hey, sometimes you're going to, baseball is the ultimate game of inconsistency. Now, how long that inconsistency drags out is what usually makes the difference between good teams and bad teams. It's nice when you can put up 2 10-game win streaks, but sometimes you are going to get that 10-game losing streak, because water finds its level, and that's just kind of how baseball works. And it's a weird sport for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, very, very. Now, as we're, one more Cubs question before we go into us Bears.
Sure.
Now, as far as what trades do you think, if they make any trades in the trade line? I'm sure they definitely need a lot of pitching help. They could use another bat, definitely middle relief. What do you think? It's going to be what Jed Hoyer is going to be looking for in these next few weeks. You go into the trade deadline.
Keena, Sid, if you two can both throw baseballs, you guys are eligible. It's arms. That's all it is. I think Jed Hoyer, it's exclusively arms. It's exclusively arms. I think, a bench bat would be nice. Maybe if you can sneak a guy like that into a trade that includes a pitcher, I think the Cubs would certainly be interested in that. You can never have a bench that's not deep. I think if Matt Shaw had the injury concerns he's had so far this year, If Ballesteros had been a little bit more consistent at the major league level, I think they'd feel a little bit better about the bench, and they might still feel good about the bench late in the season, right? Letting those guys get some run in Iowa. Ramirez, I think, has done a brilliant job both in pinch hitting situations as well as when he has filled in the lineup, kind of coming off the bench. So I think that would be a good spot to look, but pitching, specifically starting pitching, because somehow, some way, the Cubs always are. They're really good at going to the island of misfit toys, of castaway relievers, and turning them into something useful. They've done it every single year. I think of the Javi Lopez's, the Tyson Millers over the last couple of years, where these guys are just DFA'd in April because they had no room for them, and the Cubs are like, yeah, come on down. You're going to be just fine. You're going to be our seventh inning guy because we have nobody. And they somehow make it work. Starting pitching is going to be a problem, though, because right now, and not a shot at him. I love the player. But when Shota Imanaga has been your most consistent starter this year, literally just because of health, there's an issue, especially when you have playoff aspirations and World Series aspirations and have a roster built to win now. So I think names like Joe Ryan, which I know you guys as White Sox fans would love to see that guy out of the division. I think, there's certainly another handful of names. Tyler Edmonds, who's one of our great Cubs on Tap contributors, wrote an article about the Cubs taking a swing and going to get Sonny Gray. I think Sonny Gray would be a perfect name. I know a lot of White Sox fans have talked about Sonny Gray as a possible addition at the deadline as well. Same with Aroldis Chapman. So I think, those are going to be the names that the Cubs are looking for. And I don't think it needs to be a sexy name. And I think the White Sox are very much in the same boat. If you're going to go out and get a starting pitcher, I don't think it needs to be the sexiest name on the market. It just needs to be a guy that is going to be consistent, be healthy, and can give you at least 6 every time he goes out there on the bump. And if you get that with how both sides of town have performed from an offensive standpoint, which has been enough to put them in playoff consideration right now, you're going to be just fine, right? It's at this point, the way baseball has evolved, the season has not become longer or shorter. It's been consistent for almost 100 years now. And even back when they added games, they only added 8 games. It was a 154 game season once upon a time. But the athletes have gotten so much better. So injuries are more of a concern than ever in the sport of baseball. So sometimes if your best ability is availability, you're the guy for the job. That's totally fine. You don't have to be the greatest talent in the world. You could be a Tyler Glasnow, incredible pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers, but the guy's made of glass. Or you could be a guy like Sonny Gray, who, even though he's in his 30s and he's been around for forever, is still going out there against the Yankees on Sunday Night Baseball, throwing 7 1/3. That's the guy I want in October. So it doesn't have to be the sexy names, but they have to get reliable starting pitching. And again, I really do think that applies to both sides of town. I don't know how aggressive the White Sox are going to be because that window's just now opening. And I don't think the organizational depth is quite there where they can just start selling guys off for rentals. I think if they're going to make a move, it's a guy that is under control for a few seasons and somebody that can keep in the organization for more than just the remainder of the year. But for the Cubs, this team's built to win now. The pipeline is about as drained as it's ever been, and they're gonna have to go get somebody, because otherwise it's going to be the 3 of us doing tryouts at Wrigley Field to see who can pitch in October, because it's been something this year, the way that they go through pitchers.
We'll see what both teams do between now and the August 3rd trade deadline here. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena hanging out with our friend of the show, Ron Luce from On Tap Sportsnet. Last moment or two with Ron as we transition over to the Chicago Bears. Of course, the rookies report to training camp on Saturday, July 25th. The veterans report on Tuesday, July 28th. Ron, we'll ask you about Caleb Williams. He's the cover of the new John Madden NFL 27 video game. The Bears have been getting all the hype this offseason. I know some pundits are out there expecting their downfall coming up here in 2026. We know what kind of season they had last year with all those heartbreaking, heart-stopping wins. Of course, what they did in the playoffs against Green Bay, and the heartbreaking loss the way they finished against the Rams last year in the divisional round. I'll ask you about Caleb first. What do you expect out of Mr. Williams in year 3 overall, and year number 2 under Ben Johnson's system?
Yeah, I think when you are a young quarterback, you can tell the guys who are working with coaches that have what I call complicated football minds. There's very few of them in the NFL, in my opinion. Sean McVay, certainly one of them. Kyle Shanahan's another one of them. And I do genuinely believe Ben Johnson is one of those guys. There is no coach in the world that uses more deception in his play design than Ben Johnson. There are so many minute details that the average football fan has absolutely zero clue of that go into what Ben Johnson does. For example, I'm going to give a quick shout out if you guys don't mind here. So a good friend of ours over at Bears on Tap, he's an author. His name's Bobby Peters, and he writes these complete offensive manuals. He's a football coach. He's a high school football coach, and he sells them on Amazon. They're awesome reads. If you really are kind of new to football or don't understand play design, these are fun reads, and they're about $20 a book. They're very affordable. So I have a bunch of them because I'm a sicko and I'm a football nerd. And this thickness here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from 2024. So this is the Liam Cohen offense, who's now the head coach of the Jaguars. Why I bought it, because I was interested to see what that's like. And, it's a good thickness. It's a little thicker than most of his average books. He did the Bears last season. This is the 2025 manual for the Chicago Bears. It is about double the thickness of the Buccaneers one. And that's just because of all the weird, goofy things that Ben Johnson does in an offense. So what I'm trying to get to with Caleb Williams is having a full year under your belt, there is no learning curve coming into training camp this year. There is no trying to perfect the play call. All of that stuff is in the past. That's all muscle memory now. That's all, you're dialed in, you're a professional, you're in year 2 of a system. That stuff's all handled. Now it's just about going out there and executing. I fully expect Caleb Williams to be better this season. I don't know if he's going to be 5,000 yards and NFL MVP better, but I think he's for sure going to touch 4,000 yards. I think you're going to see a better completion rate. And the reason for that is I think you're going to see quarterback and play caller on the same page more often. Where last year there was a lot of times, and Caleb just recently came out and said it because he's been trashed about his completion percentage for far too long, in my opinion. Counting stats are nice, but you need the context of the counting stats. When a quarterback's dumping off to his running back 2/3 of the time and has a 70% completion percentage, that's meaningless because you're just taking the safe out. Caleb Williams is throwing the ball away a lot, and he just recently said this to the press. I throw the ball away because I know Ben's going to go for it on 4th down. I'm trying to keep us with possession. I'm not trying to make a dumb mistake and throw it into traffic because it's 3rd down and I feel like we need to move the chains. The play's not there. The play's not there. Move on and try it the next down. I think we're going to see more situations where Caleb is comfortable with the play call, maybe knows the check that he wants to get to a little bit faster in year 2 to make a play more successful on, say, 2nd or 3rd down instead of having to wait for 4th down and just throwing it away on one of those other 2 downs. I think we're going to see an improvement in Caleb Williams this year. I really do. And he still has all the attributes that you can't teach, right? Still has the cannon of an arm. He still has the escapability that makes the greased up deaf guy on Family Guy jealous, frankly. He's everything you could frankly hope for in a starting quarterback. And I think they're going to do wonderful things this year. And, the wins and losses will dictate themselves. But I think offensively speaking, I think Caleb and Ben are going to be more on the same page. I would expect Caleb's counting stats to look a lot better next year. And hopefully that also means that the wins and losses are about the same as last year or slightly better even to position this Bears team for another hopeful playoff run.
All right, Ron, this has been so much fun as always. We got to get you back on before the season starts, for the Bears season starts, so we can talk more about this and also preview the NFC North. Where we can find all your great work on social media, listen to your podcast and all the other great stuff.
Yes, ontapsportsnet.com is where you can find all of our articles. We have a team of, we are about 20-something guys deep that contribute on the network. So you can find all of their great work and my own great work over there. You can follow me. I'm at Luce on Tap on the socials. And then be sure to like and subscribe to the On Tap Sportsnet YouTube channel. And you'll see when all of our shows go live. We got all the Chicago sports teams here in the city covered. White Sox, Cubs, Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, you name it. We've got it over at On Tap Sportsnet.
Yeah, as LaKeena mentioned, you can catch all their podcasts wherever you can get your podcasts. You can catch them, their podcasts, live in the living color, as we always say, right here on YouTube as well. Ron, it's been a while. Thanks for coming back on our show. You and your team keep up the great work. And we'll, let's LaKeena say, we'll definitely have you back here, hopefully before the regular season starts for the Chicago Bears. Keep up the great work. We'll have you back on again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time. It was good to see you.
No problem. Thanks, Ron. All right, that was Ron Luce from On Tap Sports Net. Let's take a break, Sid. We're going to do our sports potpourri segment. We got some NBA news that just dropped. Also, a little NFL as well. Sid's got time permitting. Well, Sid's got some got top 10 tight ends to draft in your fantasy teams coming up next month. Also, we got your Wimbledon update, and the U.S. Gears up for Belgium. They're around 16 matches in the World Cup. So, and also Old School TV Monday. We go a little music. We could do a little music here for Old School TV Monday, and so much more. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Our Sports Potpourri 7 coming up right after this.
Poof.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Oops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Also on the Monday, starting against the edition, you're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me, and whenever she comes back, LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG is SidKid80. That's SIDKID80.
Sorry, my bad. I had to sign for a package. You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, execution, and the IG.
Poof! This is a sports potpourri segment. Like any other topics that we have discussed thus far in today's show, including our the topics that we talked about with our good friend Ron Luce from OnTap Sportsnet in our last segment. If you have any questions or comments regarding the subjects we discussed on today's show thus far, you can definitely hit us up, not now, but right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the opening screen for you.
Excuse me. Going to the NBA first, of course, as Summer League has started for the NBA. If you're looking for the Bulls, well, they don't start their Summer League games until Friday. They're playing in Vegas. They'll be playing in Vegas on Friday. We'll talk about that later on on Friday's show. But some NBA news here. Sean Charnia is reporting that former Bull and, of course, current King DeMar DeRozan is going to be waived. And he's one of the top free agents. The two sides had to try to work out a resolution after exploring various trade opportunities. But it looks like the veteran six-time All-Star is going to be a free agent.
Yeah, I know the Sacramento Kings picked up the option on Zach LaVine's contract. Zach LaVine is supposed to make, I believe, $49 million next year. So in terms of that, and they have a youth movement going on. I know they have Darius Sacovta, who they selected out of the University of Arkansas. He's going to be their new point guard going forward. So times are changing with the Sacramento Kings. Part of this is financial as well. So DeMar DeRozan, we saw it here in Chicago. He's that veteran who's going to have the young guys' attention. He has a wealth of knowledge. He doesn't mind passing it down to his teammates into the next generation. So whichever team that DeMar DeRozan goes to, I'm assuming it's going to be a playoff championship type caliber team. His wealth of knowledge along with his play is going to do wonders. Now, there's a couple of teams like, I don't know anything. I'm just guessing out loud. I would say San Antonio, but I know they just picked up Tobias Harris from the Detroit Pistons. I think the Spurs are out. The Miami Heat, in my opinion, are a possibility. The New York Knicks are a possibility. I doubt it. The Lakers, even though he's from Los Angeles, maybe the Lakers are in play, but I don't know that's going to be a realistic possibility. Maybe Houston is a possibility, or even Detroit, since Tobias Harris now is with the San Antonio Spurs. So DeMar DeRozan has some options here. At least 5 or 6 teams should be calling for his services right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to want to play for a contender, get a chance at a ring. So, yeah, this will be interesting. He'll definitely be one of the more fascinating players to watch this free agency. Now, another player to watch that was to watch out for is the 5-time All-Star and Finals MVP, Jaylen Brown. So Celtics trade into their division rival, Philadelphia. The Celtics get Paul George along with unprotected 2031 first-round pick. 28 first round pick swap and 2 future second round picks. And I guess if you ask folks around the league, I guess if you believe it, it's kind of interesting that they picked this route. I'm talking about the Celtics to trade him to trade one of your best players to your division rival. It's kind of interesting how all that kind of transpired and all the stuff that went on afterwards. But yeah, just a little bit nutty that news that dropped on Friday.
Yeah, I think as far as this trade is concerned, I think it's going to benefit the Celtics in the long run because of those 2 first-round picks. I forget part of this was financial as well because Jason Tatum, who is their franchise player, you paid him that big contract a couple of years ago. You paid Jaylen Brown that contract before the start of this past season. So something had to give there. As far as Philadelphia is concerned, they're in win-now mode because of the injuries that suffered the last few years, in particular Joel Embiid. Now Paul George is with Boston now. But look at this lineup. If they all stay healthy, I think Philadelphia could do some things. But the question has been health, especially with Embiid over the last few years. You have Joel Embiid, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, and Tyrese Maxey. If those 4 guys stay healthy, that's a hell of a starting lineup in the NBA for Philadelphia. They just had to get a couple bench players. Maybe Philadelphia. I'm just guessing here. Maybe Philadelphia could be an option for DeMar DeRozan. We'll see what goes on with that. But Philadelphia starting line could be one of the best in the league if they all can stay healthy in time for next season. So we know Tyrese Maxey is a proven all-star. VJ Edgecombe, we saw flashes from him last year. Hopefully he can take that next step. But the two questions that you got to ask for Philadelphia going into next year: one, can Joel Embiid stay healthy? And number two, can he take that quote-unquote second role on the team where he does not have to be the man anymore?
Yeah, I think that's going to be really the kind of like the number one question. Number one question here is that, is he going to be willing to be kind of like, someone who's not going to be the guy? So that's going to be interesting. So speaking of the Sixers, and again, if you believe LeBron's agent, Rich Paul, he's eyeing a host of teams like what LeBron is after opting not to continue with the Lakers. I guess some of the teams that are supposedly he's eyeing, the Heat, the Cavs, the Sixers, among others. I think I also saw somewhere maybe the Knicks. I don't know. They'll make room for him, but I guess Mitch Robinson's gone, so I guess they could squeeze him in. Dallas, San Antonio, Golden State. We know the Golden State Warriors have been around, of course. The Cavs as well. So I mean, Lord knows how long this is going to take. I mean, look. I mean, training camp starts in September. So I'm sure he's gonna want to make a decision probably before the end of this month. So who knows? But so yeah, I'm just like, okay, just pick somebody. My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know that he likes to be passive aggressive. He loves the attention. He likes to drag things out. So like you said, hopefully it doesn't take too long for him the decisions to make. What I do like about it, he may not like the way he goes about it, but LeBron always loves to have options for himself. And I gave my opinion about Golden State the last few shows. Go back to the archives and listen and hear what I had to say about Golden State. Miami is a vacation spot. I don't think Pat Riley wants to be used for that, so I think Miami's out. Philadelphia, from a basketball standpoint, makes a whole lot of sense, but I don't know if they have enough room to go get him. That's why I think DeMar DeRozan is a better option for them, in my opinion. But I still said throughout this past season, I'll still say it now, it's Cleveland or retirement. But I think eventually he's going to choose Cleveland to have his going out party, at least to end his career, rather, in the 2026-2027 season.
Now, like I said, what does that leave? Like guys that like James Harden and Spida Mitchell, and I think that's gonna there'll be enough basketballs for folks up there. But I guess that's something that they'll have to figure out if he does. I think he still goes with Golden State. I know supposedly the Wizards. I know they said they're not going to trade Anthony Davis, and also Patrick Ewing, he's over there now as a.
I don't believe
coach.
that.
Yeah, and also too, remember Patrick Ewing. Of course, this news came on Saturday that he's joining the Wizards as an assistant coach. Probably helping to mentor AJ Debonska. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think there's still lots of moving parts here. So it's gonna be interesting to see these next few weeks of what LeBron does. I'm sure there's gonna be a whole bunch of rumors and innuendos and such. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully this doesn't take as long as the first decision or even the second one that he made. Hopefully he makes a decision quick, but we'll have to wait and see.
I think we guarantee he won't do another TV special. I think that's the only guarantee we have right now. He won't do another television special. He won't call up Jim Gray or anybody else to waste all of our time. So I think you can count that as a 99.9% guarantee on that. But quickly on the Washington Wizards, especially if this Golden State situation does happen, do you think that the Wizards will cut their nose off to spite their face if they get the package that they like? I don't think so. So I don't believe it. Well, we ain't trading Anthony Davis, which means they don't like the offers that they've been hearing about from various teams. That's what that means.
Now, speaking of LeBron's former teammate Roy Hachimura, he's staying in Los Angeles, but he's going to the Clippers. This news came out about a couple of hours ago. He's agreed to a 2-year deal, $28 million to go to the Clippers. I know he had offers with Golden State, the aforementioned, Minnesota, San Antonio, as well as Brooklyn. But he decides to stay in Los Angeles. Like I said, go across the hall, if you will, and play for the Clippers. I think. Again, the Clippers are an interesting team too. So I think that they traded Kawhi and I'm fascinated to see what they do with him. I mean.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the Clippers do with their bench as well. I think quietly they're building a nice, solid, competitive team over there. We're talking about Tyronn Lue being one of the best coaches in the league. I know he's been talent written over the last few years, especially dealing with the injuries of now both ex-players, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. You know, Kawhi Leonard's been majority healthy for the last 2 seasons, but they drafted Keaton Wagler out of Illinois. As you mentioned, they traded Kawhi away. They got back Brandon Ingram and some picks, and you have Darius Garland, who you got in the trade deadline deal for James Harden last year, and now you picked up Rui Hachimura. He was very good, close to 40% shooting from 3 last year. He was one of the only few players that outside LeBron that showed up for the Lakers in the playoffs last year, minus Luka Doncic and minus Austin Reeves before he came back in that second round series last year. So Rui, I think, is going to do some good things for the Clippers. Do not sleep on the Clippers. They could be very competitive right in the middle of that pack in that Western Conference.
Yeah, it's going to be very crowded there, the Western Conference, all the various moves that have been made so far. And that's going to be interesting to see. But this is a fascinating sighting for the Clippers. So we'll see if everything kind of like goes about here as you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Do our potpourri segment as we talk some football. No, not that football, but also we're talking about the World Cup. The U.S. Men, they're getting ready to play Belgium in the round of 16. The question is, will their striker Folarin Balogun, will he be? He got a red card. We shouldn't have gotten a red card against Bosnia on Friday. There was a whole bunch of a hubbub, if you will. Supposedly Trump got involved, and now it's been rescinded. That it hasn't been. Then Belgium threw a fit, and then FIFA told them like, no, this has nothing to do with y'all, so you can't make any appeals. So now it looks like he is gonna play tonight against Belgium. So I think Belgium might use this as motivation. Who knows? But yeah, it's going to be interesting how this sort of like how the U.S. responds to all this. But I know it's going to be rocking up there at Lumen Field up in Seattle. So I'm sure it's going to be a 12-man type of atmosphere up there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how do you think that's going to play a factor with this USA men's soccer team? As we talked about on our shows last week, they're playing with house money. They survived the knockout round. Actually, almost dominated the knockout round. They played that extra game with their backups, which didn't hurt them before they played their next game. But you mentioned playing on home turf. They're playing in Seattle. They're playing against Belgium. I know you're the soccer expert. I'm not, as I humbly admit, but I think pressure is on the United States tonight because, like you said, with them advancing to each round, expectations get higher. And of course, as fans, as citizens of the United States, you want this team to reach their full potential. And I think it's more pressure on them than Belgium tonight. I won't be surprised if Belgium won because more pressure on the U.S. is on their side, and like you said, with their red card situation, like you said, that Belgium could use that to their advantage tonight. They get a call against the USA early, and they could ride that momentum and perhaps win the game. But I think it's going to be a close game. I think we'll go with the U.S. to pull it out. And if it ends up in a draw, I think it may not be good for the U.S., but it should be a highly competitive game tonight. A whole lot of emotions going to go in that building tonight. Let's just see if USA can keep their emotions in check.
Yeah, that's going to be the main thing for the United States. I'm sure Belgium as well. I know that, like I said, they're going to probably use this extra motivation. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think the U.S. should be able to beat Belgium. But again, if Belgium surprises people, it really shouldn't surprise them. The Belgian team has been kind of underachieving the last few years. So we'll see what happens now. The other match, Portugal and Spain, I think that's going to start in about 5 minutes from now. I think it's about to start in a couple of minutes. Ronaldo versus Lamine Yamal, the 18-year-old phenom with Spain. That should be a good matchup. Whoever wins that match will face the U.S. U.S. Belgium winner. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. there. Mexico lost to England. That was a crazy match there
That was
last
soccer
night.
yesterday.
Not really. I think I think they were playing it. I think part of the shock was that they were playing in their home turf out there in Mexico City. So, and actually they were down a guy. I'm talking about England was. So, yeah, you can probably say in that respect that was a little bit of upset.
Mhm.
But also your Eric Holland took Norway on his back and beat Brazil 2-1 out there in Jersey. Now, both the matchups, like I said, the U.S. and Belgium matchup is 7 o'clock on Fox. The Portugal-Spain matchup is started right now on Fox. The last of the round of 16 match, you got Argentina, of course, Lionel Messi against Mo Salah in Egypt. That'll be an early one, 11 a.m. Down in Atlanta on Fox. Also, the last of this round of 16 matchup, you got Switzerland and Colombia. That's the last of it. That'll be in the afternoon in Canada at 3 o'clock in Vancouver tomorrow. And also your Thursday, this should be a good one here. Thursday match, your Thursday quarter-final matchup, you got France and Morocco. That'll be at 3 o'clock on Fox over at Gillette Stadium over in Foxborough. So a busy first few days with the finish up of the knockout round. So this is actually when the things really get into full swing.
Yeah, like I said, you know me, I'm not much of a soccer fan, but I know these World Cup games have been very interesting. I did watch a little bit of that England-Mexico game yesterday. I found myself to be entertained a little bit. I know the rules are different with the running clock than it is here in America, especially when it comes to the game of hockey and American football, which we'll get into in a second. But as we said, going into this tournament, it's all about is like the Olympics. This event happens every 4 years. You get behind your country. You see watch parties all throughout the United States, including here in Chicago, with various restaurants and bars hosting watch parties. It's all about getting people together, having a good time, and sharing in a common experience, sharing in a common goal. Whether your team loses or not, of course, it helps way more when your team wins. But it's all about celebrating culture, celebrating diversity, and just getting everybody together and celebrating with good vibes and having a great time. And that's what you love to see. That's one of the reasons why we love sports, right?
Well, I mean, if you've seen Jameis Winston, he's been going around the country. He's been with the Scottish fans when they were in the tournament. I think he was. I don't. Not yesterday, but I think a couple of days ago, when I believe Morocco and Canada, where they were playing down in Houston. I know he's been. He was jamming with the Morocco. Well, no, actually he was in Pennsylvania over at Lincoln Financial Field, partying with Paraguay and France. So that was kind of interesting. Like I said, he's been kind of going around. So yeah, it kind of shows you, what's been all about. And Michael Harris, actually from the Braves, actually said that he would get a tattoo of the England of Harry Kane in England, his number on his arm should England beat Mexico yesterday, and they did. So I remember they were in Atlanta, and a lot of the English fans were they went to a Braves game, and they were like right there, and he was waving to the fans. They kind of adopted him as their baseball hero. So that's what this is all about. Look, soccer, especially the World Cup, they always give you like some strange connections and friendships, and so I think this is what the soccer usually does, right? Because you get people from like different walks of life and different countries that you'll usually see very often. But I think this is usually what happens. But you gotta love it though.
Yeah, and that's why, like I said before, this is one of the reasons why we love sports. It connects people together, brings fans and all ages, all cultures, bring people together for one positive common cause, and this is what you love to see. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. Quickly, LaKeena, we'll probably get into this more in depth on Friday, but I just want to give some names as we transition over to fantasy football in the NFL. It's never too early to prepare for your fantasy football draft. I'll just throw some names out quickly as we are pressed for time, but I was reading through this article over the weekend from SI.com, and they have the top 12 names that you should be looking out for your fantasy football drafts as you draft and looking for that stud tight end for this year. Coming in at number 1, Brock Bowers of the Las Vegas Raiders. He'll have two new quarterbacks this year, Fernando Mendoza and Kirk Cousins. Number 2, Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals. He had a great year last year. Coming in at number 3, not a shock if those of you living in the Midwest, Colston Loveland entering year number 2 out of the University of Michigan, or representing the Chicago Bears. Number 4, Tucker Kraft of Green Bay. He had an injury-riddled season last year. And checking in at number 5, Tyler Warren of the Indianapolis Colts.
Not really surprising, none of those names. And I think, Ty Warren especially, I know some people are looking for a breakout season. Can Colson Loveland keep up? And the irony is that the first 2 guys that you named are going to have new coaches. So we'll see how they do against those new offenses.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Check it. We'll give you names 6 through 10. Harold Fanta Jr. of the Cleveland Browns. I know some folks have Cleveland as a surprise team this year. I'll believe it when I see it. Number 7, Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions. Number 8, we have Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons. Free Kyle Pitts, # free Kyle Pitts. That may actually happen this year. Not too many people are going to talk about. Well, we'll see what happens with him. Checking in at number 9, Travis Kelce of Kansas City. Congratulations to him shutting down New York City and getting married to that annoying Taylor Swift. And checking in at number 10, George Kittle, who had an injury-riddled plate year of San Francisco. He's expected to bounce back and have a great year. No surprise. I think none of those guys. And so of course we'll see if Kelce has enough left in the tank because he's getting older. And and you remember Kyle Pitts just signed a new deal with Atlanta, so he's not going to go anywhere. But like I said, a new coaching staff there. So let's see how he does, and hopefully he'll be used a little bit more. Yeah, just a couple of the names to throw out to you real quick. Jake Ferguson checks in at number 11 with the Dallas Cowboys, and Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. Well, it's like two veterans. Like I said, I mean, Ferguson has always been very solid. Goddard's been really good too, so I'm sure they'll be used a lot. So, So like I said, I think those are probably some 12 really solid tight ends, and I think there's definitely tight ends that people should be drafted for their fantasy team. As I'm sure those get ready for those fantasy teams. They're going to be those fantasy drafts are going to be coming up. Over a month from now, as this is Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you real quick because we got to go to Old School TV Monday. We got to go to Wimbledon. I know Madison Keys unfortunately lost to Linda Noskova. That whole part of the draw. I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, she was good early, but Noskova kind of kicked it into gear. And of course, you got to think she's one of the favorites. Now going into that section of the draw is wide open now. Tomorrow it'll be an All-American quarters, and also you got 2 good friends and doubles partners, Jessica Bagula and Coco Gauff. That'll be one of the early matches there. So also Coco Gauff, shout out to her first Wimbledon quarters. She actually now has made to the court, at least the quarters in all 4 Grand Slams. So shout out to her. It'll be interesting with that match tomorrow against Pagula. Her legs are a good friend and doubles partner. Also Naomi Osaka, who upset Arina Sabalenka on Saturday. She plays at Karolina Muchova of Chechnya. That'll be the later match coming up. So that whole women's section is pretty wide open.
Yeah, as we talked before we went on live here. Sorry, I haven't paid attention much to the men's bracket yet, but the ladies, like you said, the ladies matches have been interesting. I watched the previous matchup last Saturday morning with Madison Keys. She dominated there, winning in 2 straight sets. But what happened to her earlier today? She fell behind that first set. She tried to come back, but fell short, losing 6-4. But she lost in the second set, 7-6. She battled back, but in my opinion, she ran out of gas. But like you said, the young lady on the other side, she's the reason why she's ranked number 9. She showed why, especially down the stretch in that second set.
And they shared a nice little moment after the match. Of course, he said that she grew up watching Madison Keys, so kind of modeled a lot of her game after her. So that was, so that was really sweet. On the men's side, though, I think Yannick Sinner. That should be, that'll be interesting, though. The quarterfinals, his quarterfinal match, he actually will be playing Jonathan Struff, who actually beat Francisco Tiafoe. But then that's the first match. That'll be the early match. Also, the second match will be Fizz Auger Alasime, who went to the quarterfinals last year at Wimbledon. He'll be facing the old standard Mr. Not to call him old, but he is a veteran, of course, Novak Djokovic, who actually broke Roger Federer's record of the most singles matches won on the men's side, 106. So he broke that record. I know he wants to try to get that one last Grand Slam before he retires. He'll have a tough matchup going against him, but that should be a fun matchup tomorrow. Also, Taylor Fitz, he goes to the quarters as back to the quarters. Well, Wimbledon. He beat Bubik in straight sets on the men's side. So I think it could. I think Fritz, this is his best surface. So I'm wondering he could perhaps maybe get in there, perhaps maybe make it to the final, or at least the semifinals. It's kind of right there. He'll have to face. I think he'll have to face Alexander Zverev. I believe if he wins his match, who of course is the reigning French Open champion. So, but yeah, it's definitely a chance for Fitz to go a long way here.
Yeah, like I said, we'll see what happens on the men's side, and we'll see what happens in the now wide open field on the ladies' side, as well as Wimbledon, the tennis tournament from London, England will continue on throughout this week, and we'll have our full recap on our next episode coming up on Friday. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. See you, LaKeena here, kicking in with you. It's around this time every Monday as we close out the show. This is Old School TV Monday. We salute Old School TV comedy, drama, a TV special. And this week, we will salute the American television variety series Motown Live. It was in syndication, which featured music artists from R&B, hip-hop, and popular music. The show aired 13 episodes from 1998 until 1999. The show was hosted by Robert Townsend and Montel Jordan. Its format featured several Motown live dancers opening and closing the show, along with backup artists. The program also included comedy sketches in between artists' appearances. Ricky Meyer, the current music director for American Idol, served as the music and house band director. The Motown live dancers including Lisa Joanne Thompson, Fawn Chambers, and Carmen Bacher, and Kevin Stay. The show was in syndication until 2000. It was distributed by Universal Worldwide Television. LaKeena, as we talked about a little bit before we went on live here, damn near forgot about this show. You can catch a few episodes right here on YouTube. It was a variety show that featured old school Motown acts like the Commodores to the DeBarge family. It paired up with the current artists that were out at that time, like Maya, Monica, Missy Elliott was in a couple of episodes. Those artists did their songs separately, but they would come together to sing the old school songs from the Motown era to close out every show. And that's the only element that I liked about that show. Shout out Robert Townsend, Chicago's very own for the West Side. But those artists that they brought in at the time, like Earth, Wind and Fire, they brought in other old school artists outside the Motown family, but it was a collaboration between old school and the current artists that were out at the time. And that's what I liked about that show.
Yeah, I tried a couple episodes. I didn't really like it. I think in some parts of the country it aired in pretty weird hours. I think it came on, on Saturday. I think I saw somewhere it came on Saturday. I think at 11 at night in some spots around the country. So that might have played a little bit of a part there. But it kind of just feel like they were trying to be something that it wasn't, or maybe they were trying to do something different and it just didn't land with a lot of people. So I can see why, unfortunately, the show did not last no more than 13 episodes. But yeah, you tried it and it didn't work. And this is actually on the height of the TRL craze and a few other shows that aired. 106. It was a little bit before 106 in part, but this was like Rap City and those types of shows where, you had the band, the live band, and the live performances and such. So it didn't really work. I think it kind of got lost in the shuffle there, but you give them an A for effort, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, and you mentioned maybe in some aspects it was way ahead of its time, but it gave premise to shows that we're watching now, like The Voice and American Idol, and some of those shows that are working now in this day and time. But as you mentioned with Motown Live, some aspects did work, some other aspects it didn't work, but it gave premise to future shows that we are watching right now. So it does it should get its credit for that as far as setting up for what is happening right now.
Maybe when people weren't ready for those type of shows yet. This is what
very possible. Yeah.
Yeah, about 2-3 years before Idol aired, and a little bit before, years before, about a decade before, or maybe 10 or 11 years before The Voice aired. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think people just weren't ready for that kind of format yet. So, but yeah, I mean, I think now you probably say that maybe you could probably say that Motown Live is one of the reasons why you got American Idol, having as many seasons they've had, also The Voice as well, and among other shows. But it was fun. Like I said, the format just, I think, like I said, 99, I think folks, late 90s, they folks just weren't ready for that type of thing. So maybe, like I said, give them props for creativity or perhaps maybe trying to do something. But like I said, it just didn't work.
And for this week's edition of Old School TV Monday, we salute the old school syndicated music variety show Motown Live. LaKeena, take us home.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And if you missed our interview with Mr. Ron the Loop from On Tap Sports earlier, don't worry. You can catch the replays anytime, anywhere on Sports Zone Chicago, specific YouTube channels. You can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas. I know they had a show on during our time on Friday, so if you guys missed that, you can check that out. And so much more on the Sports Zone Chicago specific YouTube channels.
And you know we will provide.
Good luck to the U.S. men tonight up in Seattle in the World Cup. I know a lot of folks will be tuning into that one. Check out Wimbledon. Check out baseball, of course, and also WNBA. I know the Sky played tomorrow against Mercury. I guess I think it's Mercury. I don't think it's gonna be on television unless you got a WNBA League Pass. But if you want to check that out, you can. But yeah, so for Sid, I'm the kids with Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
USA, USA, go Sox, holla!